And it's been a brutal year, Dagan. And when you see this kind of sentiment,
will
it
continue
feeds
to
on
so
itself.
because of the volatility. I mean, the irony about it, with the oil price at $26, you would have said tax cut, consumers feeling a little bit better, but they're still repairing those damaged balance sheets that they had in 2008-9. Corporates have very strong balance sheets. The banks, obviously.
But are they spending their money? Are they investing?
No.
I mean, we see it like from the durable goods orders last week. It indicates companies are, in fact, not investing the way you would like to see in a recovery.
All central bankers cannot explain why CapEx inside companies and even OpEx remains constrained.
I think it's because of this uncertainty, Dagan.
And I think that there's something more insidious and worrisome going on in terms of investors, and it's something that Kevin touched on, that investors are losing faith in central banks around the world, that they don't think, and Janet Yellen touched on this in her testimony, sounded very downbeat on the economy, acknowledged inflation expectations are easing in the United States. And can central banks do anything to stop the volatility, to stop what looks like global deflation with negative interest rates? I think a lot of this recent selling started with the surprise.
I just want to jump in on one
DOJ, the Bank of Japan going to negative interest rates at the end of January.
And investor sentiment, to the point that you guys are making, right now, it literally is low as it was in 2008, Maria. Literally, we had markets that were down 40% in 2008. This is nowhere near that kind of correction.
This is not 2008.
Investors are feeling as bad, if not worse, as 2008. And that reflects what's going around the world in the news like we see in the morning. And that clearly is affecting their spending habits and their investing habits.
Every central bank, when they poured their money into their systems, where did it go? It didn't lead to the real economy. What it led to is maligned investments, and what it did is it expanded the multiple. So if you look at what happened here in the U.S., we went from a 15 PE on the market all the way up to 19. You had companies trading at all-time highs, and they were also buying back their stock. They didn't put it into the capex that we were just talking about.
I think this is a really good point because
Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone, and salutation to the Akim out there pushing this truth and sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. Now, what you just witnessed there on Fox News is pretty much the reality of the United States economy. All right, investors are losing faith in the United States economy. Investors are not believing in the American dream anymore. Okay, and the money that the Federal Reserve is giving to investors, the investors are just buying back their own shares. Okay, to try to get out of debt as much as possible, which they're not because everybody's in debt. All right, so with that, I'm gonna get to a quick scripture. Start off, then we'll get into some articles. This is Proverbs 23:4. Labor not to be rich. That's right. If you're into the Bible and you're reading the Bible and you know you're a Hebrew Israelite and you're listening to brothers out that are in Great Millstone, okay, we always say this all the time, and don't labor to be rich. Just labor to sustain yourself, survive in Babylon, because we know this place is about to go. Okay. So Proverbs 23:4. Labor not to be rich. Cease from thy own wisdom. That's right. All right, because you think you got the world figured out, you think you got your business running smooth, but then stuff like what you're hearing right now on Fox News can put a wrench in your whole ideology and just mess everything up, thinking that your business is going to flourish, because this is a time of prophecy and a lot of things are getting worse. All right, so let's get to the first news article that I came across. This came out recently. This is from CNBC.com. It states, are U.S. businesses losing faith in the U.S. economy? Looks like it, all right? From a Dr. Michael Ivanovich, all right? And this came from CNBC. It says, if investments is always an act of faith because it's a leap into an unknowable future, then the numbers on U.S. capital spending in the first half of this year show worrying signs of declining business confidence. That right there. This proves that the investors don't have any confidence in America anymore. All right, so they're not going to invest in it. All right, they're not going to want to build companies. They're not going to do construction, build a building, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Let me go down to a point. It says this right here. It says this tells us that it gets into the numbers. It says Americans' investment outlays over the period fell at an annual rate of 2.1%. Marking a substantial decline from an already lackluster 3.2% pace of it advanced in the second half of last year. All right, so they even fell less in investments from last year. Only 2.1% of people of the whole globe of people that are actually investing in America is only 2.1%. And there's a worse. Taking a longer view of this bellwether segment of aggravated demand, which represents 1/5 of America's GDP, one can see that the spending by U.S. companies on plant and equipment slowed to a growth rate of 0.6% in the year to June, compared with a 5.5% growth a year earlier. So, wow, that is a major change. All right, this goes to show you that, investors are not having their faith and confidence in America anymore. This tells us that American companies don't see any compelling reason to expand their factory floors or to add new capital goods because they believe they have enough spare capacity to meet current and expected sales from existing production facilities. All right, meaning they got enough supply and there's not enough demand. There's just too much supply on hand. No incentive to invest. That is how much they lack confidence in prospects of a steady and sustainable growth of domestic and foreign demand for their products and services. A longer view of slowing business investments is necessary to dispose of apparently widely held belief circulated last week that the decline of the GDP growth to 1.4% in the first 6 months of this year was just a matter of short-term inventory adjustments. All right. The idea is simple. Destocking is generally taken as good sign for growth outlook because the aggregate demand is expected to snap back up as industrial production accelerates to restore investors to sale ratios to their desired levels. Well, that has not happened over the past 5 quarters when inventory drawdowns have been a constant drag on economy growth. Yeah, meaning, hey, man, we got to get rid of all this stuff. I don't care where you get rid of it. We just got to get it out of our inventories. And you're seeing that today. You go to any Macy's store, clothing line store, you see they got so much inventory that they're having these half off prices and always a deal and always a 30% off, 50% off because nobody's buying. Okay, let me get to the point. Here we go. It goes, this is a serious problem, I'm reading it right here, for an American economic policy, and it should be center stage in the election year when presidential contenders have to tell the nation about their plans for job income, social welfare services, and the country's security. All these policy objectives depend on how much we can invest to raise our decimal. Okay? It says 1.6% potential growth rate. Indeed, a physical limits to the economy's non-inflationary growth, continuation, our ability to generate jobs, incomes to pay for infrastructure, healthcare, education, and defense, an increasingly hostile and polarized world. Right? Because all the world's at war. And they got to spend money on weaponry. They got to spend money on education. And investors are looking at America like, you spending all this money on all this other stuff instead for goods. What's the point? You're not buying our merchandise. You're buying stuff for education, for war, okay, healthcare. So, all these investors are like, America's useless now to us, So let me get to another scripture. Right here, Ecclesiastes 12:3 says, in the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease because they are few, and those that look out of the windows be darkened. That's right, because the grinders are ceasing, There's no point of building here in America. They're seeing it. All investors are seeing it, and it's about to be the collapse. And another proof, here's another article right here. This is from Bloomberg. This came out recently. It says, fragile U.S. economy now facing a slowdown and building boom. At a quarry in Bridgeport, Texas, where rock is crushed, sorted, and cleaned, it is hard to tell that the nation's construction boom may be hitting a wall. Workers maneuver front-end loaders to fill a long line of rail cars and trucks with up to 25 tons of washed stone each. The destination, one of many construction projects that dot the Dallas-Fort Worth area 70 miles away. We're moving a lot of rocks, okay, this guy says. Construction has been one of the few pockets of strength in the U.S. economy until recently. Construction payrolls have declined since March, and spending in May rose less than 3% from a year earlier, the lowest rate since 2011, coming after supercharged growth of 10% last year. The question now is whether the sputtering is just a blip or something more lasting that portends a significant drag on the economy. Okay? And let me get to a point where it talks about Miami and Florida. Here we go. And New York. Yet, right here it says, yet construction may be a victim of its own success. a torrid place of apartment buildings has saturated some markets. Foreign investments looking for returns have poured into high-rise condos in Miami and hotels in New York, creating some overcapacity, meaning that they put so much money into these buildings and hotels, expecting a lot of tourism and a lot of investors to buy, that they're overcapacity in supply, meaning there's more rooms available, more rents available than there are people buying it. Okay. In one example, Pollock Shores Real Estate Group, a privately held group, put on hold plans to build a 315-unit apartment complex in Atlanta area as several new buildings cropped up. Yeah, because there's too many buildings and not enough people buying these buildings. Hence, what happened in 2008. So let's get back to this article. Okay. It says, we need to hear more about economic policy. So far, we have heard, this is going back to these politicians, okay? It says, so far, we have heard very little about that except for intriguing sound bites about repatriating the manufacturing outsourced to foreign low-cost producers and revisions of trade policy to stem our soaring deficits and our runaway net foreign liabilities. We need to hear more about economic policy because the long period of cheap money is about to end. That's right. The central banks are going to have to are at the tipping point of stop giving out free money, okay? Because they want to raise up interest rates, and when central banks have to constantly giving out cheap cash, which is pretty much alchemy, free money, all right, into these banks, all right. The investors are looking at it like, well, you guys are just getting free money. There's no value anymore. And that's the name of the game, to have value. So cheap cash doesn't give value to any form of industry, all right? The only unknown is whether the adjustment to the new world economic realities will be a gradual and orderly process or whether it will lead to a chaotic downturn and rising unemployment, okay? So that's what they're expecting because they see that, investors are not investing in this in the economy anymore. So let's get back to another scripture, Proverbs 11:28. He that trusteth in his riches shall fall. That's right. So you have all these clowns saving their money for to buy a big home or a new vehicle. All right, that's gonna be your downfall because the investors don't want to invest in the American economy anymore. So you trying to build that home or that car, get that home or that car, that's going to be your detriment. But the righteous shall flourish as a branch. That's right. The righteous is the elect, because the elect are just like, look, I just want to survive because I know all hell's about to break loose. All right. And here's the reason why. This came out of the Miami Herald. Armed men in body armor at Walmart tell police they are preparing for doomsday. Okay. Police were called to a Richmond Road Walmart Saturday night after witness noticed a car full of men in body armor holding semi-automatic weapons. A 6-month-old baby was also in the car. Okay. Lieutenant Jackson Newman said when Lexington police officers got the three men out of the car at about 11:15 p.m., they said were preparing for doomsday and needed supplies. The men were armed with pistols and semi-automatic rifles, police said. A license is not required to have semi-automatic weapons in a car, police said. So there you have it. All right. Police also found marijuana. So you know that this is these Edomites, okay? Because if it was Jake would have been shot. All right. So you're having these Edomites going to Walmart, all right, walking around with weapons, pistols, and buying more supplies, all right, because they're getting ready for all hell about to break loose in America. And let me get to the final scripture, Revelation 18:9-11. And the king of the earth, who had committed fornication and lived deliciously with her, just talking about America, okay, Babylon, shall bewail her and lament her for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning. That's right, because not only them nukes are going to be hitting this place, but you're going to have sedition among men, weapons, blowing things up, fire coming out of buildings, okay, just total anarchy happening here in America before the nukes drop, okay. For verse 10, standing far off for the fear of her torment, saying, Halas, Halas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for 1 hour is the judgment come, okay. That's right. That judgment is when they implement the RFID chip as well as when the missiles drop, okay? And in the midst of that, you're going to see nothing but men, women, and children being killed by other men and women who were prepared, like these doomsday guys, okay? Verse 11, and this is the key point. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over, for no man buyeth their merchandise anymore. And that's what's happening. Investors are no longer buying, right here. Investors are no longer having the faith in the American dream. Investors are no longer buying in America, okay? So, with that, I hope this was edifying. Just, real quick video, just letting, the elect know, the brothers know that investors are showing no faith. And the title of this video will be Investors Have No Faith in the American Dream. Okay, or America is losing, investors are losing faith in the American dream. And with that, I want to give all praise and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai, double honor to the apostle, Great Millstone, and salutation to the Akim out there pushing his truth and sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. And like we say all the time, death to America. Shalom.